The courtroom smelled like old wood and broken dreams. I sat at the defendant's table in a blue button-down shirt from Walmart, $12.97 on clearance, and khaki pants I'd owned since 2019. My shoes were scuffed. My watch was a $20 Casio. My wedding ring was gone, pawned 3 months ago to pay for groceries. Across the aisle, my soon-to-be ex-wife Vivian sat in a cream Chanel blazer that cost more than I made in a month. Her lawyer, Renata Voss, wore Louboutin heels and carried a briefcase that probably cost more than my car. They looked like they belonged here. I looked like I'd wandered in from a bus stop. "Your Honor," Renata Voss began, her voice dripping with theatrical concern, "my client is deeply worried about the welfare of her children. Mr. Beckett's financial situation has deteriorated dramatically over the past 18 months. He went from running a moderately successful HVAC business to working as a—" She paused, glanced at her notes with exaggerated disbelief. "A janitor at a middle school." She said the word janitor like it was a communicable disease. Judge Carolyn Whitmore, 62 years old with silver hair and reading glasses perched on her nose, looked at me over those glasses. Her expression was neutral, but I'd been in enough rooms to know when someone had already made up their mind. "Is this accurate, Mr. Beckett?" My lawyer, Miles Finch, stood. He was 39, working my case pro bono because we'd gone to high school together, and he was the only attorney in the county who believed I wasn't a deadbeat. "Your Honor, my client's current employment situation is temporary. He's actively rebuilding his business and—" "Rebuilding?" Renata interrupted with a laugh. "Your Honor, the man declared bankruptcy 8 months ago. His credit score is in the 400s. He lives in a studio apartment above a laundromat." She turned to look at me, letting her gaze travel from my clearance rack shirt to my scuffed shoes. "He can't even afford a proper suit for a custody hearing. How is he supposed to afford food, clothes, school fees, medical care for 2 growing children?" I wanted to respond. Wanted to explain that the reason I was broke was sitting across the aisle in Chanel, smiling like a cat who'd already eaten the canary. But I'd learned something over the past 2 years. The truth doesn't matter when the other side has better lawyers. "Your Honor," Renata continued, "my client earns $180,000 annually as a luxury real estate agent. She owns a 4-bedroom home in Willow Creek, fully paid off. She drives a Mercedes. She can provide stability, opportunity, and a future for Iris and Owen. Mr. Beckett can provide—" She gestured vaguely at my outfit. "Whatever that is." Someone in the gallery snickered. I kept my eyes forward, kept my hands folded on the table, kept the tears locked behind a wall I'd been building since the day Vivian filed for divorce and my entire life fell apart. My children were sitting in the back of the courtroom with a court-appointed supervisor. Iris, 7 years old, and Owen, 5. They were watching everything, hearing everything, hearing a stranger in expensive shoes explain why their father was worthless. "Mr. Finch," Judge Whitmore said, "does your client have anything to say in response?" Miles looked at me. I could see the defeat in his eyes. We'd prepared for this hearing for weeks, but we had nothing. No evidence, no witnesses, no ammunition. Just my word against Vivian's wealth. I stood slowly. "Your Honor, I love my children. I've been their primary caregiver for most of their lives while Vivian built her career. I coached Iris's t-ball team. I stayed up with Owen when he had nightmares. I know their favorite foods, their teachers' names, their fears, and their dreams." I paused, swallowed hard. I know I don't look like much right now. I know my bank account says I'm a failure. But I am not a bad father. I've had a hard couple of years. Renata Voss smiled, that cold, predatory smile I'd come to know well. "A hard couple of years," she repeated. "Your Honor, everyone has hard years, but not everyone loses their business, their home, their credit, and their self-respect in 18 months. Mr. Beckett's hard years are a pattern of failure, and my client's children deserve better than a father who can't keep his life together." Judge Whitmore nodded slowly. She was writing something on her notepad. I knew what she was writing. I could feel the decision forming in the air like a storm cloud. I was going to lose my children. "Your Honor," Renata said, "I move that primary custody be granted to my client, with supervised visitation for Mr. Beckett, limited to—" "Dad?" The voice was small, trembling, coming from the back of the courtroom. Everyone turned. Iris was standing up. My 7-year-old daughter, in her purple dress and white shoes, was standing up in the middle of a custody hearing. The court supervisor reached for her. "Sweetheart, you need to sit." "Dad, can I show the judge the letter I found in Mom's safe?" The courtroom fell silent. Vivian's face went white. I didn't know what letter Iris was talking about. I didn't know she had found anything in Vivian's safe. Didn't know she even knew the combination. Didn't know she had been carrying something in her backpack that would change everything. But I knew my daughter's face, and I knew she was telling the truth. "Young lady," Judge Whitmore said, her voice surprisingly gentle, "what letter are you referring to?" Iris walked forward. The court supervisor tried to stop her, but Judge Whitmore raised a hand. "Let her approach." Iris walked up the center aisle, past her mother, past the expensive lawyers, past everyone who had been laughing at me 5 minutes ago. She was clutching a folded piece of paper in her small hands. "I found it in Mom's safe," she said. "I know I wasn't supposed to look, but I heard Mom on the phone one night. She was laughing. She said—" Iris's voice cracked. "She said she was going to take us away and Daddy would never see us again." "Iris!" Vivian's voice was sharp, panicked. "Iris, sweetie, you don't know what you're talking about. That's private property. You can't just—" "Mrs. Beckett." Judge Whitmore's voice cut through like ice. "You will be silent." Vivian's mouth snapped shut. Iris reached the bench, stood on her tiptoes, held up the letter. "The words are hard," she said. "I couldn't read all of it, but I saw Daddy's name, and I saw Mom's name, and I saw bad things about Daddy that aren't true." Judge Whitmore took the letter, unfolded it carefully, and then her expression changed. I've thought about that moment 1,000 times since. The way the judge's eyes moved across the page, the way her jaw tightened, the way she looked up. Slowly, deliberately, first at Vivian, then at Renata Voss, then at me. "Counselor," she said to Renata, "did you have any knowledge of this document?" Renata stood. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked uncertain. "Your Honor, I have no idea what that is. My client has been completely transparent with—" "This letter," Judge Whitmore interrupted, "is dated January 15th, 2024. It is addressed to your client. It is from a man named Garrett Sinclair." She looked at Vivian. "Do you know a Garrett Sinclair, Mrs. Beckett?" Vivian didn't answer. She didn't need to. The color draining from her face said everything. "This letter," Judge Whitmore continued, "contains several very disturbing statements. Allow me to read a few excerpts for the record." She cleared her throat. "My darling Vivian, everything is proceeding as we planned. Once the divorce is final and you have custody, we'll move forward with the Portugal plan. Nolan will never see those children again and we'll finally be together." The courtroom was dead silent. "The $847,000 is secure in the offshore accounts. The jewelry is in the safety deposit box. Your consulting fees will continue as long as you need them. $15,000 per month. Untraceable." Renata Voss sat down heavily. "As for Nolan's business, my contacts confirmed that the clients have all been redirected. He'll never know it was you who destroyed him. By the time this is over, he'll look like exactly what you want him to look like, a failure who can't provide for his children." Judge Whitmore set the letter down. "Mrs. Beckett, would you like to explain this?" Vivian was shaking. Her Chanel blazer suddenly looked less like confidence and more like a costume, a mask she'd been wearing to hide the monster underneath. It's not what it looks like. Garrett is just a friend. He was helping me through a difficult time. The money is legitimate consulting income. You're under oath, Mrs. Beckett. I want to speak to my lawyer. Your lawyer is sitting right there, and I suspect she's currently wondering whether she's been made an accessory to fraud." Judge Whitmore's voice was granite. "This letter describes systematic financial sabotage of your husband. It describes hidden assets totaling nearly $1 million. It describes a plan to remove your children from the country without their father's consent." She picked up her gavel. "This hearing is recessed until 2 p.m. At that time, I expect full financial disclosures from both parties. I am also ordering an immediate investigation into the allegations contained in this letter." She looked at Vivian with something close to disgust. "Mrs. Beckett, I strongly suggest you use the next 3 hours to consult with your attorney about the penalties for perjury, contempt of court, and parental kidnapping." The gavel came down, and my ex-wife's perfect life began to crumble. Let me tell you how I got here. My name is Nolan Beckett. I was born in 1981 in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Working-class family. My father was a mechanic. My mother was a school secretary. They taught me the value of hard work, honesty, and showing up every day no matter how tired you are. I became an HVAC technician after high school. Heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Not glamorous, but honest work. Good pay. The kind of job that lets you look at yourself in the mirror. I met Vivian Hartley in 2008 at a mutual friend's wedding. She was 24, just starting her real estate career. Ambitious and driven in a way that made me feel like I needed to be better. She was beautiful. Dark hair, green eyes, a smile that made you forget your own name. We dated for 2 years, got married in 2010. I was 29, she was 26. Nice ceremony at her parents' country club. The first sign, maybe, that we came from different worlds. But I loved her. God help me, I loved her with everything I had. In 2012, I took a risk. Used our savings, took out a loan, and started my own HVAC company, Beckett Heating and Cooling. It was small at first. Just me in a used van and a lot of 18-hour days. But it grew. By 2017, when Iris was born, I had 12 employees and contracts with half the commercial buildings in the county. I was pulling in $95,000 a year and had just bought our house in Willow Creek, the same house Vivian now claimed was fully paid off, with money she had somehow earned selling real estate. I paid off that house, every penny, but I was never home. That was Vivian's complaint, and it was fair. I worked constantly. Missed dinners, missed weekends, missed moments I can never get back. When Owen was born in 2019, I promised myself I would slow down, be present, be the father my kids deserved. So I did. I promoted my best technician to manager. Started delegating, started coaching Iris's t-ball team and taking Owen to the park and being home for dinner most nights. And that's when Vivian started pulling away. I didn't understand it at first. I thought she'd be happy. I was finally the present, engaged husband she'd always wanted. But she wasn't happy. She was bored. In 2021, she started working late more often. Conferences in other cities, meetings that ran until midnight. I trusted her. Never questioned it. Never checked her phone or her emails or her credit card statements. I was a fool. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't learn until that letter appeared in court, was that Vivian had been having an affair with Garrett Sinclair since 2021. 3 years. While I was coaching t-ball and making pancakes on Sunday mornings, my wife was sleeping with a married investor and planning my destruction. The sabotage started in early 2023. Clients I'd worked with for years suddenly stopped returning my calls. Contracts that were about to be signed fell through at the last minute. Rumors started circulating that my work was shoddy, that I cut corners, that I'd been sued for negligence. None of it was true, but it didn't matter. In business, perception is reality, and someone was systematically destroying my perception. I lost 3 major contracts in 2 months, then 5 more. My employees started leaving for other companies. My credit line got pulled. By summer 2023, I was hemorrhaging money so fast I couldn't see straight. I filed for bankruptcy in September 2023. The same month, Vivian filed for divorce. Coincidence? I thought so at the time. I thought she was leaving because I'd failed, because I couldn't provide anymore, because the successful businessman she'd married had become a bankrupt nobody. I blamed myself. For months, I blamed myself. I moved into a studio apartment above a laundromat. Took a job as a janitor at Cedar Falls Middle School, $28,000 a year, plus benefits. It was humiliating. A 42-year-old man who'd owned his own business mopping floors and cleaning toilets, but it was honest work, and it paid the child support that Vivian demanded. The divorce proceedings dragged on for months. Vivian had Renata Voss, the most expensive divorce attorney in the county. I had Miles Finch, who was doing this as a favor and couldn't devote much time to my case. Every hearing was the same. Vivian in designer clothes talking about her successful career. Me in clearance rack shirts trying to explain why my life had fallen apart. The court saw what they were meant to see. A wealthy, successful mother and a broke, failed father. No one saw the strings being pulled behind the curtain. No one saw that the whole thing was a setup from the beginning, until my 7-year-old daughter stood up in court and handed the judge a letter. The afternoon session was a massacre. Not for me, for Vivian. Judge Whitmore had ordered an emergency investigation during the recess. By 2 p.m., when we reconvened, 2 things had happened. Renata Voss had withdrawn as Vivian's counsel, citing irreconcilable differences, and a forensic accountant from the court had begun tracing the accounts mentioned in the letter. Vivian had a new lawyer now, a public defender, hastily assigned, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mrs. Beckett, Judge Whitmore began, during the recess, investigators were able to verify several claims made in the letter your daughter presented. Specifically, they have confirmed the existence of offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands containing approximately $847,000. They have also confirmed monthly transfers of $15,000 from a company called Sinclair Capital Partners to an account in your name. Vivian said nothing. Furthermore, the judge continued, investigators contacted Mr. Garrett Sinclair directly. He has admitted to a 3-year romantic relationship with you, to providing the funds in question, and to assisting in what he described as making sure Nolan couldn't fight the divorce. My heart was pounding. All those months of confusion, of self-blame, of wondering why my life had collapsed so quickly, it was all there, written in black and white, confirmed by the man who had helped destroy me. Mr. Sinclair also confirmed that you planned to relocate to Portugal with your children once custody was finalized, in direct violation of any custody agreement this court might have issued. Judge Whitmore removed her glasses, set them on the bench, looked at Vivian with an expression I can only describe as cold fury. Mrs. Beckett, I have been a family court judge for 23 years. I have seen parents lie about income, about affairs, about drug use. But I have never seen anything as calculated and cruel as what you have done to your husband and your children. Vivian started to cry. I'd seen those tears before. They were weapons, turned on whenever she needed sympathy. The judge wasn't buying it. You systematically destroyed your husband's business. You drained his accounts. You ruined his credit. You took his home, his career, and his dignity, and then you walked into my courtroom and asked me to take his children. She picked up the letter, held it up. This letter describes a plan to kidnap 2 American children and transport them to a foreign country where their father would have no legal recourse. Do you understand that this is a federal crime? Vivian's new lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client may have made some poor decisions under the influence of— Sit down, counselor. I wasn't finished. He sat. Based on the evidence presented today, I am making the following rulings. First, temporary emergency custody of Iris and Owen Beckett is awarded to their father, Nolan Beckett. Effective immediately. I couldn't breathe. Second, Mrs. Beckett is prohibited from any unsupervised contact with her children pending a full investigation into the allegations of parental kidnapping and financial fraud. Vivian's tears turned to sobs. Third, I am referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. The charges may include fraud, perjury, contempt of court, and conspiracy to commit parental kidnapping. She picked up her gavel. Fourth, Mrs. Beckett's hidden assets are hereby frozen pending forensic accounting. Any funds determined to have been fraudulently concealed will be subject to equitable distribution, which, given the circumstances, will likely favor Mr. Beckett significantly. The gavel came down. This court is adjourned. I walked out of that courtroom holding my children's hands, Iris on my left, Owen on my right, both of them looking up at me with eyes that had seen too much but still believed their father could protect them. "Dad," Iris said as we reached the parking lot, "did I do okay?" I knelt down, looked into her eyes, those bright, brave eyes that had seen through her mother's lies when no one else could. "You did more than okay, sweetheart. You saved us. I was scared. The lawyer lady kept saying mean things about you. I didn't like it. I know, baby. I didn't like it either. Is Mom going to be mad at me?" I pulled her into a hug, held Owen with my other arm. "Mom made some very bad choices. None of this is your fault. None of it. You told the truth, and telling the truth is always the right thing to do. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." We stood there in the parking lot for a long time, the three of us holding on to each other like survivors of a shipwreck. Behind us, I heard Vivian being escorted out by her lawyer. She was still crying, still playing the victim. She didn't look at us. Maybe she couldn't. The investigation took 6 months. What they found was even worse than the letter suggested. Vivian had been planning my destruction for nearly 2 years. She and Garrett had discussed it in emails, text messages, and phone calls that investigators were able to recover. The sabotage of my business was systematic. She had contacted my clients directly using a burner phone, claiming to be a concerned former employee. She told them I was cutting corners on safety inspections. She told them I was under investigation by the state licensing board. She told them anything that would make them cancel their contracts. 3 of my former clients agreed to testify. They confirmed that they had received calls from a woman warning them about my work. They confirmed that the calls came just days before they canceled their contracts. The financial fraud was equally damning. Vivian had hidden $847,000 in offshore accounts, money that Garrett had given her over the 3 years of their affair. She had also hidden jewelry worth over $120,000, to $20,000, cryptocurrency worth $89,000, and a consulting fee income of $180,000 per year that she had never reported to the court. While she was telling the judge that she earned $180,000 as a real estate agent, she was actually receiving another $180,000 from Garrett, none of which appeared on her financial disclosures. The Portugal plan was the most chilling. Investigators found plane tickets, purchased 6 weeks before the custody hearing, for one-way flights to Lisbon. 3 tickets: Vivian, Iris, and Owen. If she had won custody that day, if Iris hadn't stood up with that letter, my children would have been on a plane within a week, and I would never have seen them again. Vivian was charged with 12 counts of various crimes: fraud, perjury, contempt of court, conspiracy to commit parental kidnapping, filing false financial statements, making false statements to a court officer. She pleaded guilty to 6 counts in exchange for the rest being dropped. The judge, a different judge, since Judge Whitmore had recused herself, sentenced her to 5 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and $425,000 in restitution to me. She lost everything. Her real estate license was revoked. Her reputation was destroyed. The house in Willow Creek, my house, the one I had paid for, was awarded to me in the final divorce settlement. Garrett Sinclair didn't fare much better. His wife divorced him after learning about the affair. His business partners forced him out of his own company. The last I heard, he was living in a condo in Florida, alone, with half the money he used to have. I don't feel sorry for either of them. The custody ruling was finalized in October 2024. Full custody to me. Vivian received supervised visitation, 2 hours, twice a month, at a court-approved facility. The first time she showed up for visitation, Iris refused to see her. Owen went, but he didn't say much, just sat quietly while his mother cried and apologized and promised she would change. He stopped going after 3 months. I didn't force them. Judge Whitmore, who I still ran into sometimes at the grocery store, told me that children know when they've been betrayed. You can't force them to forgive. You can only give them time. 2 years have passed since that day in court. I'm 45 now. Living in the house in Willow Creek, my house, finally, with Iris and Owen. I'm not a janitor anymore. 6 months after the custody hearing, I used the restitution money to restart my business. Beckett Heating and Cooling, version 2.0. Smaller than before, but growing. I have 4 employees now, 2 vans, and a reputation I've been slowly rebuilding. The clients who had canceled because of Vivian's lies started coming back. Some of them apologized. Some of them gave me new contracts just to make up for what had happened. I make $72,000 a year now. Not what I used to make, but enough. More than enough. My credit score is back in the 700s. I drive a truck that's only 3 years old. I wear suits to church on Sunday, not expensive suits, but good ones, the kind that fit. And I never shop at Walmart anymore. Not because there's anything wrong with Walmart, but because every time I see those blue shirts on the rack, I remember sitting in that courtroom while a lawyer in Louboutin heels told the world I was worthless. I wasn't worthless then. I'm not worthless now. And I'll never let anyone make me feel that way again. Iris is 9 now, 4th grade. She's smart, scary smart actually. Her teachers say she reads at a 7th grade level. She's already talking about being a lawyer when she grows up. So, I can help dads like you, she told me once. Dads who don't have anyone to believe them. I cried when she said that. Happy tears. She remembers what she did in that courtroom. She knows that her testimony saved our family. But she doesn't brag about it. Doesn't talk about it much at all. When I asked her about it recently, she just shrugged. I knew the letter was important, she said. I couldn't read all the words, but I knew it was about you. And I knew Mom was lying. How did you know? Because she practiced. Practiced? Her stories. I heard her on the phone with that man, Garrett. She would tell him what she was going to say, in court, and he would help her make it sound better. They practiced it over and over. She paused. Real things don't need practice, Dad. Only lies do. 9 years old. My daughter figured out something at 7 that took me until I was 42. Real things don't need practice, only lies do. Owen is 7 now, 2nd grade. He doesn't remember as much as Iris does, which is probably a blessing. He knows Mom did something bad. He knows she doesn't live with us anymore. He knows she hurt Dad and had to pay for it. But he doesn't carry the weight of it like Iris does. He plays soccer on weekends. Has a best friend named Marcus who comes over for video games. He's obsessed with dinosaurs and space and a YouTube channel about monster trucks. Normal kid stuff. The stuff I always wanted for him. Sometimes he asks about his mom. When she's going to visit, whether she's okay, whether she still loves him. I tell him the truth, edited for a 7-year-old's understanding. Mom made some bad choices, buddy. She's dealing with the consequences. But she still loves you. That part is real. I hope it is anyway. I want to believe that somewhere under all the manipulation and lies, Vivian loved her children. That the woman I married still exists somewhere, buried under the monster she became. But I don't know. And honestly, I don't think about it much anymore. I have more important things to focus on. Miles Finch is still my lawyer. He doesn't do it pro bono anymore. I pay him his full rate, $250 an hour, which I can afford now, because he earned it. He believed in me when no one else did. He stood beside me in that courtroom when everyone was laughing. We have lunch sometimes. He tells me I'm his favorite case, the underdog who won. You know what the best part was, he said once? The look on Renata Voss's face when she realized what was in that letter. I'd pay $1 million to see that look again. I didn't see it. I was looking at Iris. It was glorious. This woman who had spent the whole morning mocking your shoes, your shirt, your apartment, and suddenly she's realizing that everything she built her case on was a lie, that her client had played her just like she'd played everyone else. Did Renata know about Vivian's plan? I don't think so. She's aggressive, but she's not criminal. She was just representing what she thought was a wealthy client with a solid case. When she found out the truth, she withdrew immediately. I think she was genuinely horrified. Good. You know she offered to apologize to you? Privately. A few months after the hearing. I hadn't known that. What did you tell her? Miles smiled. I told her you were too busy rebuilding your life to worry about the opinion of someone who had judged you by your shirt. I laughed. It felt good. It feels good to laugh about it now, 2 years later. At the time, there was nothing funny about any of it. But time has a way of turning tragedy into comedy, pain into perspective. I was humiliated in that courtroom. But I walked out of it with my children, and that's the only thing that matters. I got a letter from Vivian 6 months ago. Handwritten. 5 pages. The most she'd communicated with me since the divorce was finalized. It was an apology. Sort of. She apologized for the way things happened. For any pain I may have caused. For choices that seemed right at the time but weren't. She didn't apologize for sabotaging my business, for hiding nearly $1 million, for planning to kidnap our children to Portugal. She apologized for the way things happened, like it was a natural disaster, something that had occurred without anyone's agency. Typical Vivian. I didn't respond. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, just indifference. She's not part of my life anymore. She's a stranger who happens to share DNA with my children. A cautionary tale. A reminder of what happens when you trust the wrong person. I wish her no harm, but I also wish her nothing at all. Last week, I took Iris and Owen to the county fair. We rode the Ferris wheel, ate corn dogs and funnel cake, threw darts at balloons and won a stuffed dinosaur that Owen named Dr. Chomps. Normal family stuff. The stuff I dreamed about during those dark months in the studio apartment, wondering if I would ever see my children again. On the drive home, Iris fell asleep in the back seat. Owen was humming along to the radio. I looked at them in the rearview mirror, my kids, safe, healthy, happy, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Gratitude, not just for winning custody, not just for getting my life back. Gratitude for the small moments, the corn dogs and Ferris wheels, the bedtime stories and Saturday morning cartoons, the homework struggles and soccer practices and everything else that makes up an ordinary life. I came so close to losing all of it. So close. But my 7-year-old daughter stood up in a courtroom and told the truth. And everything changed. I want to tell you something before I go. I walked into that courtroom in a Walmart shirt because that was all I could afford. I sat there while a lawyer mocked my shoes, my job, my entire existence. I stayed quiet while everyone around me assumed I was a failure, a deadbeat, a man who didn't deserve his own children. And I almost lost. If not for Iris, if not for a 7-year-old girl who was brave enough to tell the truth, I would have lost everything. The system almost failed me. It fails people every day. Fathers who love their children but can't afford expensive lawyers. Mothers who work 3 jobs but still get judged for not being stable enough. Parents who wear clearance rack shirts to custody hearings because they've spent every penny they have on their kids. We judge people by their appearance, by their bank accounts, by the cars they drive and the clothes they wear, but none of that measures what matters. What matters is love. Presence. Showing up. I showed up every day for my children, even when I was broke, even when I was broken, even when everyone told me I was worthless. And in the end, that's what saved us. Not money, not lawyers, not expensive suits. A 7-year-old girl who knew her father wasn't what they said he was. A letter that proved it, and a judge who, when confronted with the truth, had the integrity to act on it. It's Sunday morning now. I'm in the kitchen making pancakes. Iris is at the table reading a book. Owen is on the floor making Dr. Chomps fight an army of Legos. The house smells like maple syrup and coffee. Sunlight is streaming through the windows, the same windows I installed myself 10 years ago. Back when I thought my biggest problem was whether to expand my business. Life is different now. Quieter. Smaller in some ways. Bigger in others. I don't have as much money as I used to, don't have the same status or success, but I have something better. I have my children, I have my integrity, I have the knowledge that when everything was taken from me, my business, my home, my reputation, I didn't give up. I kept fighting, and in the end, the truth came out. Not because the system worked, because my daughter was brave, because she believed in me when no one else did. Iris just looked up from her book. Dad? Are these the blueberry pancakes or the regular ones? Blueberry. Your favorite. Thanks. She smiled. That bright, unselfconscious smile that makes everything worth it. Dad? Yeah? I'm glad you're my dad. I turned away so she wouldn't see my eyes getting wet. I'm glad you're my daughter, sweetheart. More than you'll ever know. She went back to her book. Owen crashed Dr. Chomps into a Lego tower with sound effects. The pancakes sizzled on the griddle. Normal. Ordinary. Perfect. If you're watching this and you're going through something similar, fighting for your children, being judged for your circumstances, feeling like the whole system is stacked against you, I want you to know something. Don't give up. The truth has a way of coming out. It might not be when you expect it. It might not be how you expect it, but if you keep showing up, keep loving your children, keep being the parent they deserve, someone will notice, someone will stand up, someone will hand the judge a letter that changes everything. For me, it was my 7-year-old daughter. For you, it might be someone else. But it will happen. The truth always finds a way. Thank you for listening. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. A parent fighting for custody. A father being judged by his wallet. A mother being dismissed for not being put together enough. Anyone who has ever walked into a courtroom feeling like the whole world was against them. You're not alone. You're not worthless. And your children know who you really are. Even if it takes a letter to prove it. Even if it takes a 7-year-old standing up in court, the truth will come out. I promise. It always does. The pancakes are ready. My children are waiting. Life goes on. And for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about tomorrow.